especially if you're going to be talking about a 3-year contract.
Look, Joe, we're not General Transistor.
Make no mistake, we certainly are comparing our proposals against local industry. You've got to compete with industry to recruit your employees and to retain your employees. The city has got to bring this contract in line with industry if you hope to keep the caliber of people you presently have.
Joe, you're forgetting something. If you want to compare your benefits with those of private industry, you should also compare your job security with theirs. Let me remind you that our people have had not a layoff of even 1 day since we became a city. Your argument doesn't fly, and we're just not buying it. Now, what's the problem with our no-strike proposal?
You know the laws in this state prohibit strikes. Your proposal's irrelevant.
You know what I'm talking about. The slowdown we had last winter.
Well, did the union cause it, or did your supervision cause it?
We had a contract.
Did the union sanction this alleged slowdown?
Did the union disavow it? I don't believe you're living up to your responsibilities.
Are they about to fire you or something? We haven't heard any rumors you're in trouble.
Did you intend to apply for the job, Mr. Murphy?
We can approach this thing 2 ways, Tom. We can address ourselves to the issues, or we can sit here trading insults with each other. Now, we've been responsible on this matter, and we're still responsible. We'll negotiate with you on language to the effect that during the term of the agreement, the International will not sanction or be a party to any strike, slowdown, walkout, and so forth. Now, what happened last winter wasn't the membership's fault, it was supervision's. Any time you discipline a union steward, it's a serious matter. Now, if you'll assure us that management will meet its responsibilities, I think we can work out something that'll make you happy. But this will hang on our grievance and arbitration proposal. Give us final and binding arbitration, and we'll go with some new language on your new strike clause.
Okay. Now, what's wrong with the Employees Appeals Board?
Ted?
We're just damn tired of the guy that makes policy also deciding our grievance.
The Employees Appeal procedure is part of the Civil Service program. This committee is not in any position to abolish that board. Have you ever been treated unfairly down there?
How many cases do you want me to cite?
You're not accusing them of bias, are you?
Absolutely.
Let me say to you in all candor, Tom, that we not only must, but we fully intend in these negotiations to negotiate into a contract a procedure for your employees, our members, to get a fair hearing on grievances. And you can put in your notes that we absolutely refuse to live any longer with your self-serving Employee Appeals Board. We're going for final and binding arbitration, and that's that.
All right. We hear you, Joe. Now let's go on to this proposal of yours about residency.
I think Ed can give you the feeling of the membership on that one.
We simply believe we have a right to live wherever we choose to live, just like all other citizens of this country. We'll report to work at the appointed time, and we'll remain until the end of the work shift. But when we leave, we go to sleep where we choose to sleep.
The problem, as you know, is a legal one. The council is considering a bill that would require every city employee to live within city limits. And this committee is not empowered to change the law if that bill becomes part of that ordinance.
Tom, we fully intend to exercise our rights and enjoy the privileges of this great country. Now, I suggest that you search for a contractual means of preventing this unfair residency requirement. It's got to go.
Your position on residency seemed clear enough, Joe. Less clear, however, is your language on this educational incentive question. Just what is it that you're asking?
Come on, Tom. It says exactly what you think it says.
Apparently, if an employee wants to finish his or her education, you want us to pay for books and all other expenses that might be incurred.
And then, you want us to pay an increase in that employee's base salary when it's completed.
Yes, that's exactly what we're proposing. And we submit it's only proper. You get the advantage of the education these people get. They make you better employees. And they should be paid for becoming better employees.
Frankly, we believe there's merit to your proposal. But aren't you being extreme? There has to be some restriction. For example, Why should we subsidize some educational endeavor outside an employee's vocation? You see, I don't need a cello player for a plumber.
Make us a counter. We'll be glad to look at it.
Obviously, we're still at odds on the term of the contract. You're proposing a one-year contract while we're proposing 3. Let Pat explain to you why we must have a multi-year contract.
Hold on a minute, Tom. I notice you haven't put any money on the table. Now, we're asking for 30% across the board. I didn't hear you say anything about money. How can we talk about term without talking about money?
We'll get to money when we work out the length of the new agreement.
Would that be easiest for you, Ms. Martin?
To begin with, our one-year contracts haven't been workable for either of us. It's difficult for the city to plan ahead fiscally when we can't predict what our costs are going to be 2 or 3 years down the road. Certainly by now we're mature enough in our relationships to where we can start thinking in terms of long-term stability. And we think a 3-year contract would avoid us all the pain and turmoil, as much as we like you, of coming down here every year and hashing this over.
My dear Ms. Martin, we understand your plea, and needless to say, we are touched and moved. But that doesn't help us when we get to the grocery store. You come to the table with a straight face, and you plead to us that you want to project your labor costs so you can project your budget? Well, then I think you ought to tell us how your budget projections are made. Are you trying to tell us that you work under a revenue program that's fixed 3 years down the road?
Come on now, Joe, let's face it. You and I both know the city is strapped financially. City Council has had its problems. And for the next few years, I don't see that thing's going to let up any. We just can't negotiate wages every year. Now, I'm not saying we're not in a position to make wage improvements. I know we've got to offer improvements if we're going to keep our people. But what I am saying is that we've got strong limitations. We've got budgetary restrictions and an inflexible tax structure.
Well, if you can tell us how we can get a fair share of that budget while we're sitting under a 3-year contract, particularly in light of the increase in cost of living we've experienced in the past few years, well, we'll be happy to talk to you about it.
Well, we think that we will be in a position to offer you a long-term contract during the co-season negotiations, Mr. Murphy. One that will be saleable to your membership. But it will not include a cost of living.
Then you better be talking about a substantial wage increase. Put your money on the table.
We're prepared to offer a 5% per year increase over the 3-year term.